The Titans are staring a full rebuild directly in the eyes. Find out why and plenty more on this week's episode of Talking Titans. Sammy, start me up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans. He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Zach!
It's gonna be sick.
What's going on, folks? Welcome to another episode of Talking Titans, joined always by my two co-hosts, Jared and Vin. How we doing tonight, fellas?
Doing good. Feeling a little better than you might be at the moment with free agency, but we'll get into that.
Yes, we certainly will. Absolutely. Let's not waste any time. We have a excellent guest on. Let's just bring him right in. Mr. Cameron Wolfe. You might know him from NFL Network, covering the National Football League. He also covered the Titans from 2017 to 2018. Mr. Wolfe, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Excellent. Yeah, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Obviously, so much is going on right now in the league between the combine, the draft, free agency. I know you're running all over the place, so to take a little time out to talk to us, we deeply appreciate it. Absolutely.
I love Titans fans. It's crazy. When I covered the team 17, 18, I didn't know a lot about the fan base, but you learn how much they care about the Titans and they know ball, and I appreciate that. Fan bases are not always like that. I got a lot of fair weather fan bases who don't want to talk the ins and outs of the sport. And so I felt like when I covered the Titans, I got to talk more X and O's and true ball than any other team. And so I always will talk Titans any day.
Absolutely.
Definitely a vocal bunch on Twitter, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we like to think that we represent the loudest of the loud. So
yeah, absolutely.
Just to jump right into it, obviously there's been a lot of roster moves, at least with our team specifically. I just want to hear first off, like what your impressions were so far of like Rand Carthon, new general manager of the Titans, and just sort of, what do you foresee his success in the NFL, being a first-time NFL GM?
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually know Rand personally. I've known him for probably the last 3 or 4 years, kind of through the industry. He lives out here in South Florida in the off season. His family kind of grew up in this area. And so I've met with him several times for like lunch in the off season. We talk on the phone. And so I know and have a relationship with him. So I may be a little bit of bias just kind of from my time there. But, talking with people throughout the league, they've said that he has been ready for this opportunity for a while. And so I'm excited to see how he builds this team. This part is never fun as a fan. The fun part is when you're winning playoff games. And so when you start a new regime and you get rid of players that you fell in love with, like Taylor Lewan and Ben Jones, and all the question marks is what's going to happen with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. That's not the fun part of the offseason. You want to hear about, hey, who am I adding? Why we're going to win a Super Bowl this year? And so I think that this part he won't gain a lot of fans with, because he's tearing down to build up to what his vision of the roster is, his vision of Mike Vrabel's vision of the roster. And I think what you're seeing right now is they're signing players who have not had the full opportunity to be the guy, but they will get that opportunity here. You see guys like Arden Key, who hasn't been a full-time starter anywhere, but he was a very good player in Jacksonville the last couple of months of the season. Doug Peterson raved about him. Every time I was down there in Jacksonville, he raved about Arden Key. They signed a lot of guys like that. Andre Dillard, guy who hasn't been a starter at left tackle in Philly, but best offensive line in football, trapped behind Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. Now he gets that opportunity here. So we're going to see a lot of that. They get to clean up their cap situation. They get younger. And so this year is probably going to be a transition year. But I think that people may go a little bit overboard on hey, this team is going to be a full rebuild. It's going to take 2 or 3 years. I don't know if it'll take that long. I think that they'll build on the fly. And I'm excited to see what the finished product is.
Now, going into it, Rand, you said, Rand's taking over as GM. He has a lot going on right now with his draft coming up. You were at the Combine, just like our sick team was at the Combine. You've seen a lot of prospects. For the offensive line, who do you think is the best prospect coming out in this year's draft? I know our guys met with Paris Johnson. He said he met with the Titans. He had a great meeting. So in your eyes that you were there, who's the best prospect for us at 11, you think?
Yeah, I love Paris Jones for them. You got to figure out that offensive line. And so whether it's finding out if he's your left tackle, your right tackle, whatever it is, you need a guy you can trust on that offensive line for 10 years. And so I definitely like Paris Jones, Project Jones from Georgia, the tackle there. I like him as well. Another big guy who, maybe a year, he can be a guy you can really trust long-term at that position. And so I think they're at a good spot at 11. The cool thing about the top of the draft is quarterbacks always rise higher than they're supposed to. And so you're probably going to see 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. You're going to see a few defensive players. And so the Titans could be sitting there at 11 and maybe have their choice of their favorite offensive tackle if they choose to go that route, or their favorite receiver if they wanted to double dip and go that route. But to me, they've got to attack that offense. It's got to be an offensive player. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself, but this is a team that they were one of the worst offenses in the league last year. You got to call it a buck. And so, as we mentioned, they're getting older. Derrick Henry's been the face of this team for a long time, but whether it's this season, next season, at some point, that's not going to be the reality there. And so you have to create a new reality. You got rid of Taylor, you got rid of Ben, you got to rebuild that offensive line. And so for me, I would go at 11 and take my favorite offensive lineman, which for me is Paris Johnson, but we'll see what the case is for them.
Yeah, I definitely tend to agree with you there as well with taking Paris Johnson and getting another offensive lineman. Some fans have said, since they added a few linemen in free agency, maybe they'll go receiver and draft, but
you can't have enough offensive linemen.
I'm in the mind state where you just pile as many offensive linemen together, good quality ones, and figure it out from there. And, I use the example from when we drafted Taylor Lewan. We had a great tackle in Michael Roos, and, we saw the potential in Lewan, and, he turned out to be a great Titan for a long time. But you did mention Derrick Henry and how you said that eventually that's going to come to an end. We don't know when. You were at the combine. There was rumors out that they were actively shopping him and then kind of retracted and said, well, they weren't shopping him, but they were listening to offers. Where is the truth with that? Because as you could tell, Jared's got his jersey up. I got it up. You got a picture of you with him behind you. Yeah. We all love this man. How much longer do you think he will be a Tennessee Titan? And is there any truth to the rumor that they're shopping him or listening to offers?
Yeah, Titans question of the offseason, right? What is going to happen with Derrick Henry? I can't imagine a Titans team without Derrick Henry, first of all. He is that team. I'll say this, and as far as Derrick Henry and the shopping part of it, first of all, this time of year is interesting because the shopping word I would be careful with. I would say that listening is different than shopping. That's the way I would put it in this situation. Rand Carthon had made pretty clear at the combine that he's not going to negotiate in public. And I believe him. And so because of that, you're not going to see anybody come out and deny any reports that are out there. And so I don't know. I'll just say, I don't know if that report was in its full volition at that point. I don't think the Titans are set on trading Derrick Henry. So I think there's a very real possibility that you open up September with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill both in the backfield. Not a guarantee, but I'd say it's a very real possibility. And so I wouldn't panic yet, Titans fans, but I will say like the topic of Derrick Henry is an interesting one because he is 29 years old, almost a 30-year-old bat. And because of the way he plays, you do know that his skill set is going to run out at some point. And the reality is, even last year, it looked like he was declining at some portions of the game. He's not the same runner he was 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so that's why I said it may not be this offseason. It may be at the deadline this year. It may be 2024. I think at some point in the next 2 years, maybe the Titans probably move on from Derrick Henry. But I don't think that it's a lock that is going to happen this offseason. And in fact, if I was probably guessing, I would say that Derrick Henry is a Titan in week 1.
Now, piggybacking off of that, assuming that Derrick Henry is retained, or shouldn't say retained, but remains a Titan going into 2023. Obviously, there's plenty of question marks as it pertains to the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is clearly still under contract, still with the team, but there are ways to get out of that, get him off the team, whether that be via trade or release. There is currently a quarterback that is not picked a role on a team just yet, that I think you could argue would probably be the ultimate quarterback to have with the one and only Derrick Henry, and of course that being Lamar Jackson. We haven't heard any rumblings of Rand or Mike or the Titans in general even hinting at trying to get this man a contract. What are your thoughts on a possible reason why they wouldn't? And also, do you agree with me when I say, that could be the potential recipe for the Titans to take that final step to get to that Lombardi trophy?
Well, first, personally, I would love Lamar Jackson in Nashville, as I'm sure a lot of fans would. I don't know how much you guys play Madden, but if I made a Madden team, my quarterback would look like Lamar Jackson and my running back would look like Derrick Henry. That's how I would play. It's just the way it is. And so I would love the prospect of that. I do not think it's going to happen. I just don't. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to be a Baltimore Raven. I just don't think that there will be any moves there. But at the same time, he is the style of quarterback that I think would fit great in the current version of this offense. Like, look at the guy they drafted last year. And, I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on Malik Willis and what he will or will not be. But best case scenario for Malik Willis is he becomes a version of Lamar Jackson. And he may never realize that, but that was probably the hope there. And so if you want to have this same style of offense, and Mike Vrabel loves to run the ball, doesn't matter if it's going to be Derrick Henry or whoever's the running back. If Mike Vrabel's the head coach, you're going to run the football well in Tennessee. That's just the way it is. And so this will always be an offense where I believe the running back will have a featured role in. And so because of that, your quarterback, it's always great for that guy to be mobile. But what's going on with Lamar Jackson right now is teams do believe the Ravens would do anything to match that contract. And so that's why you saw a lot of teams backing out early and say, hey, we're out. They're not going to tie up their capital and a quarterback they know they're not going to be able to get. And so that's the reality there. And for the Titans, they do not believe that they, at this point, in this stage, they are a quarterback away. As you see with a lot of these moves, they feel like they have to rebuild the offensive line. You're going to see some changes throughout. You got to rebuild your core receiving group, some changes on defense. And so this is the offseason, in my opinion, that they spend a lot of time rebuilding the surrounding areas. And then they also can use this time to evaluate Malik Willis, maybe keep Ryan Tannehill for another year or make a move. Doesn't matter. It's kind of see what they do there. And then 2024, you will have an idea if Malik can be the guy, if he can't be the guy, and maybe you go get your quarterback that offseason. So if I was picturing it, I think that's how this offseason looks for them. But unfortunately, I don't think Lamar Jackson ends up a part of that.
You're saying a lot with Derrick Henry is going to be the focal point of the Mike Vrabel offense, running the ball. We have a lot of holes to fill, like you said, on the offense. We have Burks, a proven rookie. He had not a solid rookie year, but coming into it, who are we going to pair him with? Because we do need a veteran and we do need another young guy in the draft, because they said they wanted to get speed on offense. How do you think we develop or even bring a veteran or a guy in for the wide receiver position?
Yeah, I think they're going to be looking in the free agency market for values at this point. I think they're largely done from what I understand as far as like big picture moves. But this is the time of year you see veterans released. You see older veterans have to start a new opportunity. You see guys like Adam Thielen trying to find a spot like that. I think you'll see the Titans sign a veteran at some point in the next few weeks who supplements that person. And ideally you find somebody in the draft as well, maybe not the first round, maybe it's the second round or third round that you can continue to develop there as well. And so I do think they'll add more to that room. They know that the receiving group was
have to.
I don't know what's the kindest way to say it. It was pretty bad. Let's just call it what it is. It was pretty bad last year. Maybe the worst collection of receiving group in the NFL last year. And so they know they need to improve that. And so I'd imagine you see a lot of time and resources in the draft spent towards that. This will be a good year for them to go get another tight end. Great tight end draft. Daniel Jeremiah, who's our draft analyst, called this the best tight end draft he's seen in over a decade. And so maybe you go get another tight end there to pair with Chig, and that's another receiving weapon in that respect too. And so I think you see multiple receiving options added, a combination of veterans and draft, and hopefully you get a better year out of Treylon Burks. You see him healthy. You see him try to be that guy that they hoped he was when they drafted him.
Speaking of, you said us being, you think, largely done in signing free agents. There's a guy that plays in the middle for us that I think we need to take care of, and we haven't taken care of him yet. When do you think, we sign Big Jeff Simmons to the deal that he deserves? It's
Titans fans' hope is yesterday, right? It's funny because this time of year, I follow a lot on social media and Twitter, and so you see all the other players from other teams doing their recruiting, and I noticed like Buffalo in particular, they've been in love with Jeff Simmons. Daquan Jones, former Titan, they've been trying to recruit Jeff Simmons there all the time. I don't think Jeff Simmons is going anywhere. I think it's just a matter of time. A lot of times you're figuring out numbers. It's timing wise. You got to sign your free agents sometimes to make a deal happen. But Rand Carthon knows that Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best defenders in NFL. And I don't think they let a player like him go. I think they very clearly, I'd say a part of why there's a new GM change is the decision to let A.J. Brown go. And so I don't think the Titans make that mistake twice. And I think Jeffrey Simmons, some point, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's June, but you'll hear a big number for Jeffrey Simmons that starts with a 1 as far as 100 million and as far as extension. And so Jeffrey Simmons will be a Titan here, for a very long time. I can say that with a decent amount of certainty.
One more quick question I have for you. Speaking of being a Titan here for a long time, there was a report from Michael Lombardi yesterday about he believes that if Kevin Byard doesn't agree to maybe take a restructure of some sort, whether it be a pay cut or converting it into a bonus part of his salary, that the Titans wouldn't hesitate to potentially let him go. I think that is an asinine statement, for lack of a better word. I think he's well worth what he brings to this team, not only on the field as a player, but a leader, in the locker room. And of course, the mayor of Nashville as well. I mean, he's a Tennessee guy through and through. Do you think there is a chance at all we could potentially, move on from him if the number isn't right?
I hope not. As reporters, we're not supposed to be biased, but Kevin Byard's my favorite Titan. He has been that way for many, many years. Great dude personally, great in the community. And I think that he's still one of the best safeties in football. And so I don't know. I hadn't heard anything about Kevin Byard until that Lombardi report. And, I would say Lombardi says a lot of things. And so I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying that there's a lot of stuff that comes out that, I don't overreact to in that respect. But I will say this, I've seen a lot of surprising moves in the offseason this year. Kevin Byard is getting older. A lot of times you see DBs when their cap number gets a little high, you have to figure out how to make it work mechanic wise. Like the Eagles almost released Darius Slay. They made it work eventually, but the plan was to release him coming off a Pro Bowl year where they made the Super Bowl. And you're like, why does that happen? Well, you get too tight in cap situations. A cap number gets closer to $20 million. You have to figure out how to make it work. And so that's a position of safety where it's not typically a premium position, but you have a premium player. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there were some conversations about trying to do something with Byard's contract as far as making the cap number more palatable. But releasing him, that would be a surprise to me. And I just don't envision that as something you do as you're building this team up. Kevin Byard's not that old. There's a lot of guys who are they're deep in their 30s, and you're like, they maybe got 1 or 2 more years left. I think Kevin Byard still got another 3 to 5, if not more, good years of football ahead of him.
We can have you on more because I totally agree with just about everything you've said. So.
Titans haven't lost any games yet, and so when they lose games, then maybe we'll disagree on some things.
Cam, before we move on to our last segment, you spent a lot of time in the Southeast covering the NFL. Specifically talking about those Miami Dolphins with the addition of Jalen Ramsey to that football team. What's the temperature in the room over there in Miami? I mean, you got to think that move kind of moves the needle a little bit in the AFC East, considering when healthy, the Dolphins are quite a powerful punch on offense and defense.
Yeah, Dolphins fans are excited. It's really been a couple of cool off seasons for them because they went and got Tyreek Hill last year. Now was the big splash they made this year, Jalen Ramsey. And so this is a team that very much is all in. They feel like they're in a 2-year window where they can go get this thing. Now, their big question, and it always is the question with the Dolphins, is can you keep the quarterback healthy? Tua had a really good year when he was on the field last year, but he had the concussions, missed 5 games last year, and so it's hard to trust a quarterback if he can't stay healthy. And so the Dolphins seem confident that Tua is going to stay healthy this season, and really the season depends on it. But as far as the Ramsey move, it changes that defense completely. Their other corner, Xavier Howard, had a lot of one-on-one opportunities where he got beat, just quite frankly, last year. And so this year he has another guy who can help him out in those situations. They have a new DC and Vic Fangio, who they paid a lot of money to lure away. And so they think this defense is going to catch up to the offense. And that AFC East is going to be a lot of fun. Buffalo's won it the last 2 years, but they're running into cap situations, and so they've kind of kept it stagnant. And then Aaron Rodgers is supposed to be a Jet one of these days whenever this figures out.
When I see
the darkness and trades, I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but whenever that's done, Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet, and to me, that'll be probably the most competitive division in football. Either of those 3 teams, probably not the Patriots, but either of the 3 teams I mentioned could easily win that division, and that makes it fun.
Absolutely. So Cam, we got a new segment. We were gonna let Jarrett take over for you. You're the first one we're doing it with. So Jarrett, the floor is yours.
Yeah, we got the inaugural guest for this new segment. So Sammy starts up with it.
Think fast.
So we're gonna throw you into the hot seat. It's a new little game called Think Fast. We're gonna ask you a series of questions just to get you to the fans to get to know you a little bit more. So first question I'm gonna ask you is Nashville or Miami?
Miami.
Yeah. Does Houston win the national championship this year? And they're cutting down the banners.
Absolutely, cut it down.
Favorite actor?
Ooh. This is probably not great for the time, but Will Smith is probably my favorite actor.
That's a good one. All right, respect it. You already said it, but I'm going to ask you again. Your favorite Titan to cover while you were covering the Titans? Is it still KB?
Yeah, KB for sure. Kevin Byard.
Favorite pro athlete you've ever covered?
Ooh, that's a great question. Favorite pro athlete I've ever covered. Man, you stumped me on this one. Von Miller.
All right.
Interesting guy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's good.
Yeah.
If you didn't cover the NFL, what would be your job?
Ooh.
Another good one.
I always wanted to be a sports agent before I did this deal. And so I feel like it would still be something in sports. So I'll go with sports agent or another sport reporter, NBA or something of that respect. Boxing. I like boxing. I can do some in boxing as well.
Big boxing fan. Love boxing.
Yeah.
And if you have or had, I don't know if you can answer this question because you work for the NFL. Do you have or did you have a favorite NFL team?
Yeah, I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan growing up. Spent a lot of time Philly and Jersey, and so I still watch a lot of Philadelphia Eagles football. I had to go to the parade 5-6 years ago to see it because I grew up every year with disappointment, and when I became a professional is when they finally won. And so Philadelphia Eagles was my team.
Where are you from? Because I was born in the city. I was raised in Cherry Hill though, so I'm a local guy as well. Where are you from in the area?
So I went to Camden Catholic, and so
I went to Cherry Hill. I went to Cherry Hill. Yeah.
Okay, right there.
Yeah.
Small world. So I went to Camden Catholic. And I actually lived in Sicklerville for 7 years when I was up there, but I did not go to Winslow School, so I went to Camden Catholic and played football.
You were a good athlete then, is what you're saying.
I played football. I thought I was a good athlete, but it ended at some point. And I moved to Texas right before my senior year in high school and played football there, and it was a different flavor of football. I'm saying I was a star at Camden Catholic, was not a star once I got down there my senior year at Texas high school football.
Yeah. So local guy. I love that. See, you said you were a boxing fan. I'll give you a quick question.
Yeah.
Tank or Ryan Garcia? Who's winning that fight?
Tank, 8th round KO.
I got Tank in the late rounds too. Yep.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, guys. Tank in the 8th round. Get those bet slips in. Cam, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. Obviously, you can find Cam on Twitter at Cam Wolfe. You can also find him, of course, on the NFL Network. We wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully sometime down the road, maybe we can chalk it up again and talk football, maybe when some more things, more layers get peeled back, and we have more of an insight of what this league's going to look like in 2023. We'd love to have you back to shoot the shit a little bit.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Cam.
Cam, thanks
Appreciate
so much.
y'all.
Have a wonderful night.
All right, you too.
All right. It's Cam Wolfe from the NFL Network. Thanks once again for joining us tonight. I've obviously very laid back, very easy to talk to, and super insightful. Loved when he covered the Titans. Did a great job. So we thank him for joining us tonight. And moving forward, what's taken place since last week? I know a numerous amount of signings have taken place, so let's start covering that, right? So I got this list in front of me because I did open the show up with a pretty heavy statement that I'll let you two go first on before I speak about. But Jarrett, what do you got?
Sammy has a list of free agents and guys that left the team and we actually acquired. So here's
exactly what I was looking for. So I'm glad Sammy's got that on the record here.
Here it is.
All right.
So,
what are your thoughts, Jarrett? You happy, sad, pissed?
I know there's a lot of talk on Twitter, especially with you guys. I personally love the additions, especially with the San Francisco guard Burns Skill. I believe I'm maybe butchering his name. I'm not an English major or whatever, but I love him. He's nasty. 500 plus snaps, 0 sacks, absolutely amazing. Arden Key is another guy. I loved him coming in. It's a younger Bud Dupree, basically. He was one of the best outside linebackers, edge rushers last year from weeks 14 to 18. He had 25 pressures in that time frame, which was second in the NFL, only behind Nick Bosa. So hopefully he can be a contributor to the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel's defense. And the other guy, Luke, the linebacker from Dallas. Just as Vrabel special teams guy. So. Oh, no, I think we're all right, but I do think we're going to sign a free agent wide receiver here, and hopefully it's DJ Chark or Adam Thielen. That's my hope still.
Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Cam said is on point right now. It's no fun when you're in the transition phase, and I think you have the Titans fan base a little not divided, but you have the fans, that think that we're on the brink of a rebuild. And then you have the fans that think that we are kind of building this team with our new GM the way a team is supposed to be built from the inside out. I mean, you look at Brunskill, an offensive lineman. Look at Andre Dillard, an offensive lineman. Re-signed Corey Brewer. You look at Arden Key on the defensive line. Azeez Al-Shaair, another great addition.
Very, very well spoken. I'm gonna interrupt you on that. Very good on that.
Yes, no problem. Yeah, assalamu alaikum. So Azeez Al-Shaair, great player. I don't know about Gifford. I think maybe they did that to troll our boy Will Compton a little bit. But no, they highly, regarded out of Dallas. So I kind of see their vision a little bit after the first day. I think we might have been in panic mode with, just signing Andre Dillard and giving him $9 million a year. I thought maybe we were like, well, what are we doing? This is the only move we made all day. But Rand took his time. I think we've made some quality, additions. We lost a lot as well. But I think this is a division where we feel as though if we could, run it back maybe with the same, quarterback and bring Henry back and another receiver, it's a very winnable division. Our defense is going to be just as good, if not better, in my opinion. And I feel as though that, they might not think the window is closed yet. And, I do not foresee Henry getting traded. I think Tannehill will probably be back. And this is a division where I think, Jacksonville's good, but they have a first place schedule next year. Until Houston or Indy, put together winning seasons, I'll believe it when I see it. I think this is a team right now that, although we're in a transition phase, I think can still compete and win this division. And, when you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. But after the first few days, I could see Rand's vision for how he wants to build this team. So I'm not quite as on edge maybe as our boy Salvatore might be, and we're gonna let him take over because I feel like he's itching to tell us what he's feeling.
Sammy, do me a favor and just put that graphic up again for me if you can, just so I can envision. Here's the thing, right? So, yes, right. We might be able to contend. This is a might. Obviously, we should not be favored to win this division. Jacksonville should be favored to win this division, unless something crazy happens. Because don't forget, they're facing a first place schedule, but they're also facing, the AFC South for 6 games. So, that they really should have a very good division record this year. With that being said, you look at what's acquired and you look at what's lost. What I see is more lost than acquired. That's just the bottom line. Nate Davis was a pretty decent starter. David Long, one of the better linebackers in the league, in my opinion. DeMarcus Walker had some flashes. Okay. Robert Woods was a starter, was a bust in our opinion for a signing, but still a starter. Cunningham, starter. Ben Jones, starter. Lawan, starter. Perennial starters. Obviously, Lawan with the injury, but nevertheless, you're basically still have not, you basically gotten worse with these losses and these additions, in my opinion. Now, with this guard, this tackle, okay, they could be really good. I mean, Brunskill looks like he could be Vrabel's third cousin, but he could be really good. Diller could be really good. I've heard nothing but good things about Arden Key, Azeez Al-Jair. Very high praises from him.
I mean, that's a David Long, in my opinion.
Yeah, but again, if we're just replacing
better hamstrings.
If we're just replacing, then we're still at square one. So, were these necessary moves with the losses? Absolutely. You had to get some kind of guard, some kind of tackle. Linebacker depth is depleted as of this moment until these acquisitions came along. Yes, you had to do those things. But we're still a worse team, in my opinion, as it stands right now, than we were after that Jacksonville game with what we're looking at on the screen in front of us. So with that all being said, yes, I still think if you got Derrick Henry, you can protect Tannehill. Burks gets better. Chig gets more targets. This team can contend for the AFC South. But, and this is, again, the biggest but, and I can't say this enough. I've said it a zillion times. If we are just going into the season to contend for a very weak division, only to figure a way to lose in the first round or at best the second round, then we are putting ourselves in the worst fucking position possible for the future when it comes to the most important position on this team, which is quarterback. So unless Mike and Rand already have some envisionary plan where they're going to try to get a guy that's already established in this league via trade, or I haven't seen who's up for a contract next year of the superstar quarterbacks, but unless they have a plan in place of their next future franchise guy after this year, then just trying to contend for a division and losing in the first round is going to screw this team's chances of the future. Because no matter what they do, they need a guy that we can all grow old with and our kids can grow old with at quarterback. And we have yet to find that guy over the past 20 fucking years. So with all that being said, I'm not saying – I started out the show saying we're staring a full rebuild in the face. And the reason that I say that is this team could potentially lose 10 games again this year. It's a possibility unless there are – people that we get that are absolute difference makers. None of these guys you saw, okay, they can be good players, but none of these guys are all pro. None of these guys are Pro Bowl caliber players. Could they turn into it? Maybe the Azeez Al-Jair, maybe Key, take a huge step with Bowen, possibly. But on paper, these guys are not needle movers. They're just not. So, if you give me two paths to cross and you say, okay, you can contend for a division, win 10 games, get bounced in the wild card, or you can really basically clean house, trade Henry, whatever the fuck you can do, throw Malik Wilson, find out if he can figure shit out, and if he can, you can. If not, then you're going to get your guy next year. Or the final piece of the puzzle would be moving up in the draft, getting your guy this year, whether that be Stroud, Young, Richardson, and you throw him right in the fucking fire right away. those are the paths crossed. But I don't want to take the path that you guys think that we're on, because I'm telling you, it's going to do us a lot more harm than good come 2024. So that, that's my opinion. You guys can dissect that.
I mean, you may not, because, like I said, next year we're going to have almost over $100 million in cap space, and if we do, fall to the, in the wild card round or divisional round, we can move up in the draft like Carolina did. We'll have that power to do it because we're going to have over $100 million in cap space too.
But Jarrett, that's like 20. That's like going to be 20 picks. That's going to be really crippling. They're going to have to give away 3 first rounders.
Well, you're going to build with the $100 million that you have already, because who else is really going to get a big contract besides Jeffrey Simmons now on this team?
I mean, but you don't have to do that, because you could just do it this year. This year you got to move up 8 spots. That's it.
Listen, I know, but if they're not thinking that, maybe they're thinking that next year.
Well,
maybe they're saying patch it right now. We can win in the division. We can be competitive. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see your end of it now 100%. Why not clear house this year and just be awful and get Caleb Williams next year if possible. I completely understand that, but we've been saying it for a while. I know I've said it for a while. As long as Mike Vrabel's is coach, I cannot see this team going into tank mode. That's not his MO. I see maybe a situation similar to Baltimore when they had Flacco and traded back into the first round to get Lamar. Maybe we see potential in a guy like Hendon Hooker and sneak back into the 31st, 32nd pick so we can have him for that 5th-year option and maybe transition the year with Tannehill, see how he does, and maybe get Hendon Hooker in there. I don't know, but I don't think this team is going into tank mode. I think Rand has a vision, and I think we've heard from enough people who are respected around the league, Rank, Cam Wolfe, where they believe in what Rand is doing, and he's going to have to prove it to us. But we got to give the guy a chance at his vision of the team, and I just don't think that we're on the face of a rebuild unless things get ugly fast here and we sell at the deadline. But I think going into the season, it's going to be with the intention to win this division and get into the playoffs.
Don't be surprised if Rand sells this pick at 11 either, because
I said that a couple weeks ago.
This draft is so deep in linemen and tight ends and everything else. Because if B.J. Robinson starts falling down the draft board and at 11, and Dallas wants to come pick him up at 11, we're just going to fall back a couple spots.
Yep.
Don't be surprised.
I said that a couple weeks ago. I think trading back is a huge possibility. He's going to want as much draft capital as he can.
He can get another second-round pick. He can get 2 starting offensive linemen in the second round, and you could draft one of the receivers in the first round, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand what people say, and I've heard this phrase comment a zillion times. Out, Mike Vrabel's not the kind of guy who's ever going to go into a season in tank mode. Well, my somewhat counter to that, he doesn't have to be. Like, if you don't got the team to do it, no matter how good your fucking coach is, you can still tank. And listen, guys, I know there's this perception that I love to disagree. I really don't enjoy disagreeing with anyone. I hate it. It is absolutely the truth. I fucking hate disagreeing with people because it gets me angry when a lot of people who don't know how to have a conversation try to just, get personal and be a prick. But I digress. The point is, this team has no fucking depth right now. Okay. Yeah. Chig still. Okay. Burks could come back. But any of those guys go down and this team becomes one-dimensional. Right now, you have to hope Chig, Burks, Henry, Tannehill are healthy 17 games. You have to hope for that. Because one of those guys goes down and this team becomes a fucking flat sheet of paper. So, they could contend for the AFC South. Absolutely. But forget about Mike Vrabel's ability to be a head coach. This team looks like they could be in take mode just based on the roster of players they have on the offensive side of the football. Because don't forget, the only thing they've gotten offensively right now are these 2 cats that are the tackle and the guard. So outside of that, as far as pass catchers, as far as second running back options, we've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. A team that could not score 21 fucking points a game. Could barely touch 21 points a game.
Currently, we don't have anything. Let's fast forward to May 1st. It could be a totally different ball game, from this podcast.
But who's? That's just draft.
It's draft and free agency. There's different waves of free agency.
No, I think handful of receivers out there that could, prove worthy. I think a guy like Hardman with some speed, Shark with some veteran.
You got Thielen?
I want DJ Shark
up in North Jersey. I think Darius Slayton has some ability. I wouldn't mind.
the Giants.
He signed with the Giants.
Yeah, he's back to the Giants.
I take that back then. So I still think there's a veteran receiver out there that they could sign. And then maybe draft another lineman at 11 if they don't move back. Get a receiver in the second round. And you're looking at a different team. I mean, we have to give this guy a chance to build a 100%. Team.
If you think
on the job and we're saying there's nothing there, I disagree.
I agree with you, but if you think Rand Carthon is going to go into this season with Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, NWI, and McMath right now as current receivers, you're nuts. They're going to bring in at least 2 vets to push Kyle Phillips and NWI, because if they don't make the roster, the vets are taking their spots. They're going to draft a guy or 2, don't know that, and they may even trade for a receiver still. It's so early. I love the passion that we all have, but it's
early.
It's the first
early,
week of
but 2 things. First of all, Cam said he thinks that the majority of the big stuff is done for them. So DJ Chark would be a very big signing. And
to us, but that's not huge. To us, that's huge.
That's a pretty fair sign. If you're going to make a comment like Cam did and said, he thinks the majority of the transactions are complete for Tennessee, at least ones that have any sort of
what do you think
large value?
$10 million a year? You would give him a 3 for 30 type deal?
I think with a Pro Bowl under his belt and some consistency when on the field, I think he should be getting a $10 million contract. I do. Whether that be 2 years, 22, or 3 years, 27, something like that, however much guaranteed. But I think he's going to get a nice little chunk of change from whoever takes him. And listen, I understand what the 2 years saying, absolutely. But I mean, I don't know how many fucking years I got to be optimistic on these he said, she said, what ifs for this football team. You look around what's happened the past 2 days, okay? Some really good players went to some really good teams, okay? And some teams that were below average got rid of a lot of the good talent they had and replaced it with some question marks. So that's what I'm looking at here. Yeah, we can make a trade possibly. We can get some high prospects in the draft. But, I don't know what I have to hang my hat on right now outside of possibilities. And, we've been through a lot as fans. I understand you got to give Rand the benefit of the doubt. But I'm in the mode where I just want to shit or get off the pot. Like, break everything down, blow up the fucking whole thing, push down the TNT, or make a fucking move. Go get Darren Waller for a 3rd rounder. Get some guys that are going to make an impact the second they touch turf. And we haven't done anything like that yet. So that's where all my reservations come in. Yeah, these guys that we brought in could be very good. They could be fan favorites in 3 weeks for all we know. Absolutely. But there's not a ton of evidence that shows that that's the high likelihood, in my opinion. So
I mean, I agree with you on that. I don't understand how these teams are getting away with a Jalen Ramsey for a 3rd, Stephon Gilmore for a 3rd, and Darren Waller for 3rd when we can't even. Why not us? I sit there and look at the TV where the ticker comes off for a 3rd round pick.
It's the willingness to pick up their contract and pay them what they want to, because we're not necessarily in a situation where we could just be handing out $15 million a year to a tight end or $25 million a year to a cornerback. I think we're looking at, a transition phase where we have to look towards the future in regards to what our salary cap can look like next year, and not maybe, spend it all this year. Would I love to give a 3rd round pick for Darren Waller? Sure. But he carries a big number and we don't have really too much money to spare at the moment. So, listen, we got to give the guy his chance. From what we've heard, I'm a believer so far, and I think he has a vision on how he wants to build this team, and you do it from the inside out, and so far that's what he's doing. Is the quarterback of the future maybe here right now? But no, who knows? But he could be in a month, he could be in a year. We'll see. But I want to see what Jared said, what this team looks like on May 1st when free agency is really, just about over with and the draft's over. So, in the meantime, what are you going to do as fans? Be optimistic. That's all we can do, right, Sal? After 20 years, that's all we can do is be fucking optimistic.
And that's
I'm riding the wave until the draft's over, until I make any more comments.
That's all I've done. That's all you can do.
That's all we've been doing. Like he said, it's all we've been.
If you don't have Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, all you can do is be optimistic. And that's what we've been doing for 20 fucking years, 25, 20 years. McNair's been gone almost about 20 years. Optimism. Listen, I'm tired of being optimistic. I get it. Carthon's his first fucking year. I understand all that. But I'm just, this is a team that really, I feel, took a giant shit in their window. I want the new one started. I want the new one began.
Thank for creating that part of a mess, and this guy's here to clean it up a little bit. But I'll tell you what, sometimes when there's shit all over the ground, the only way to make it messier is to try and clean it up immediately. Sometimes you got to let it dry and then flake it off little by little, and I think that's what Rand's trying to do. If we want to talk shit analogies,
that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll note it.
I feel like our shit's been dry for about 5 months now, since a certain Thursday night in Green Bay. But that's besides the point. We'll see. I'm not going to wave the white flag. I'm just let's get somebody in this building, man. Let's just fucking get somebody in the building. Stop subtracting and adding half of what you subtracted and giving us another year, Ryan Tannehill, and saying, we got to surround him with talent. We know what he's capable of. Just fucking bring somebody in. Give us some motivation as fans, because what's going on right now is just the same old song and dance. So we'll see what happens. Plenty of time to figure things out and to improve. And obviously we'll cover everything along the way. So anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up tonight?
No, I'm talking about drying shit. You're talking about algebra, addition, subtraction, PEMDAS. Let's let the people... Let's finish the show.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, any of the platforms that podcasts are on. We're growing and growing each week, and we need all the help we can get. So obviously, we don't need all the help we can get, but any help we can get is appreciated. We're doing just fine. But hope everyone has a great night. We'll keep you informed of what's to come and who's going to be coming on next and all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the flip. So as always, tighten up, and Sammy, send me out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.